Hey, what is up guys? I'm KBHD here, and for the past couple of days since WWDC, I keep getting asked about my thoughts, obviously, on iOS 7, because it's the biggest change to iOS since the original iPhone. And I also keep hearing one phrase a lot: iOS copied Android, iOS copied Android, iOS copied Android. But to be honest, it's not just Android, and some features are just too good not to be shared. So without any further ado, this is where iOS features come from, all the new features of iOS 7, and their origins. Now, the easiest place to start is, of course, the lock screen. And the lock screen is what's most visually similar to what we saw in Android 4.0 Ice Cream Sandwich last year. First of all, iOS's new lock screen has a new wallpaper, and it has a new light font. And the new wallpaper it has is animated. So they demonstrated it in the keynote. When you move your phone around, it moves the wallpaper around with it. Animated wallpapers, believe it or not, originated in Windows Vista in a mode called Dream Scene in 2006. So PCs had basically the ability to have movies instead of images as their wallpapers. This wasn't all that popular, but this was first brought to mobile devices in the form of live wallpapers on Android. And this gave the ability to not only have moving pictures as your wallpaper, but you could actually interact with them and have them respond to your sensors like your gyroscope, your accelerometer, and sometimes even to touch. So Apple's iOS 7 wallpaper movement is called parallax according to them, and it basically moves around and reveals more parts of the image as you move around the gyroscope, so it responds to that particular sensor. There's actually an app in the Google Play Store right now that will allow you to do the same thing on your Android device, should you feel so inclined. I also hope that you have the ability to turn this off in iOS, because I can see that getting annoying for a lot of people with very specific wallpaper habits or OCD like me. But once, of course, you bypass that new lock screen, you'll get to the overall new look of iOS 7. First thing that'll strike you is the new icons and the new flatter, more modern look of all the different applications, which no doubt take inspiration from a ton of places, including Apple's own designers. And I think Windows Phone is probably one of the major inspirations for that. It's a very simple operating system, very, very simple look up top, even though there's a lot of complicated things going on below. But I like the fact that it looks more modern with less leather and green felt and stitching going on. That's a welcome not addition in iOS 7. So the weather app in iOS 7 has been redesigned. They oohed and awed the crowd with, of course, some new weather animations. So when you swipe between different locations, it'll animate you and give you basically a look at what the weather looks like in real time. This was first seen 3 years ago when HTC Sense first came out, which is, yes, on top of Android, in the HTC Desire. And that's where you could first open up the weather app and get, again, a full screen preview of real-time weather animations. And on iOS 7, I also like that the new calendar looks very clean. That's probably my favorite new redesigned app of all the ones in iOS 7. The calendar app takes a lot of inspiration from the new OS X Mavericks calendar and a whole bunch of other different things. It looks very good, very flat, very modern. Look like it could belong on any modern phone, to be honest, and that's saying something. So that's a good redesign, probably my favorite new app on the iPhone, actually. Now, these swipe gestures from left to right that are being introduced in some of the new apps in iOS 7, like Calendar and Messages. These are new. These we've seen also first in Google apps on Android. Started with the Google Plus app. And now it's in a bunch of other apps, the Google Drive app, the Hangouts app, the YouTube app. All these apps give you the ability to swipe in from the side, and it's very good with functionality where you want to use a one-handed use on a big phone. You can't necessarily all the way reach up into the corner every single time, so that's good. BlackBerry Hub also uses that swipe in from the side where you can view all of your different notifications and things like that. So this has been something that's been around for a while as Google starts to permeate through its ecosystem one by one the different apps. iOS 7 looks like it'll just jump that whole boat and just put it in all of the different apps in iOS 7. Now, the categorized notification center in iOS 7 is actually pretty unique. It's really interesting. It actually first appeared in Ubuntu Phone, interestingly enough. So that swipe down from the top notification is in a ton of different mobile operating systems, but the ability to swipe horizontally, or at least move from left to right to change what your notification center looks like, is pretty much from Ubuntu Phone. Now, Ubuntu Phone lets you swipe left to right to adjust those toggles, but again, it's the horizontal or lateral organization of that swipe down notification tray that is where they're getting that from. Now, Apple's, of course, has their own touch to it, has their own look, their own feel, their own categories, and I think it'll work well with people who are already using iPhones and iPads. But again, yeah, that's where it came from. Also, the ability to access your notifications from the lock screen is new to iOS. This is not new to Android, where it was first seen in Android 4.0, again, from last year. Control Center in iOS. It is a mush of a ton of different things from a ton of different places. It's new to iOS. Basically, you can swipe up from the bottom of your phone and get a panel where you can control a whole bunch of different settings toggles. This was first seen in Android 4.2, so it's also very recent. But in Android 4.2, you can have to tap twice to get to it, or swipe down with 2 fingers from your notification bar. With Apple, you can swipe up with 1 finger from the bottom, which lets you get to it with 1 hand. And of course, it's got a totally different look from anywhere else, so I give them design props for that. It's also transparent on top of whatever app you happen to be looking at, so if you open it on top of the calendar, it has that interesting look. If it opens it on top of the calculator, or maybe on top of a game, it'll have a different look altogether. I don't know what it looks like in landscape, but again, we'll find that out pretty much very soon. And obviously, the transparency is something that's varied between different mobile operating systems. If you look at early versions of Android, the versions of transparency have changed back and forth. It's been either totally opaque or very transparent. More recently, it's been almost completely opaque, but not quite. Apple takes it to the very, very, very glossy sort of look. Now, iOS 7 finally brings real multitasking to the iPhone and iPad, and it does this in the form of a Cards UI. Now, we've seen real multitasking on a bunch of different other operating systems. Apple's claims to do it in a much smarter way in terms of utilizing CPU cycles in order to make the best of battery life, but the actual interface itself brings us back to WebOS, which was around 2009 with the Palm Pre and the Palm Pixie. So that has taken us way back. Again, Matthias Duarte, who you may not know was actually one of the designers of WebOS, was also one of the designers for Android when he moved to Android and they started designing Android 4.2 and 4.1. That's where they got that look from for the new Galaxy Nexus and Nexus 4 stuff. So that design is pretty much all over the place now, but the Cards UI originated with WebOS. Safari also got some improvements from iOS 7. It got a full screen look, a smart search field, tab switching interface, and favorite pages, just like Chrome for Android. However, Chrome has gotten these features one by one over the course of about 2 years or so as it's been introduced to Android. Safari just got these all dumped in at once. So obviously it has the same exact feature set being added, but it's just all dumped in at the same time. Nice. Now here's a feature that's unique to iOS, AirDrop. It's basically Wi-Fi sharing. It's unique to iOS because it's the proprietary technology they've been using on Macs for a while. So it originated in OS X, now it's in OS X Mavericks, and you can now share those same files with anyone on the network who has an iPad or an iPhone as well. So obviously no NFC love needed for the next iPhone. They might have NFC in the next iPhone, but they did kind of make a play on words on stage about how, hey, there's no need to go bumping your phone around with people, a play on the Galaxy S4 commercials. But that originated in OS X. The camera in iOS also got a lot of nice improvements. You can swipe from the video camera to the photo camera to the square camera and to the panoramic camera. And of course, that's actually kind of unique to iOS. And you also have the ability to add live filters. And these live filters were usually added originally digitally in digital cameras from around 2006. Then it was made popular by Photo Booth, of course, on Mac OS X, and I think that's where they got the main inspiration from it. And now, of course, live filters are on all types of devices on iOS and Android alike. Now, Apple also is finally taking control of what used to be the endless stream of photos from your photo gallery in iOS. And in other operating systems, including Windows Phone and Android and BlackBerry for a while now, you've had the ability to sort your photo albums by location or by tags or by people in them or by time or by albums. Apple is going to now just do that for you. They're going to sort by time and location and give you the ability to zoom in or out on what they call moments and scenes and basically let you look through your photo gallery that way. It's Apple's way. You don't get to choose which albums are where, but you definitely get a much more organized view of where your pictures have been taken. And iOS 7 also now has a bunch of Siri improvements with an all-new, creepily accurate and natural female voice and male voice.
Hi, Eddie. What can I do for you?
Hi, Eddie. What can I do for you?
Siri also has support for a few new languages now and also has the ability to change system settings, which is a first as far as I've seen. So you can now turn on Wi-Fi or turn off Bluetooth or turn down brightness just by telling Siri to do so. You also now have integration with Twitter and Wikipedia in your search results, and you also now have direct integration with Bing in your search results. That is unique to Apple. I actually haven't seen anyone else yet. No one else is doing that. Now finally, Apple's App Store has gained the ability to update apps in the background, which it's been lacking for a while, and other operating systems on mobile have actually had this ability for a while, so that's good that they've gotten this. and also iTunes Radio, which is a lot closer to a Pandora than it is to a Spotify or Google Play Music All Access. The model, the subscription model, and the way they're using it, that you can't see other items in your queue, you can't see, you know, what your next song is going to be played is going to be. It's free with ads. It's very, very, very similar to Pandora Internet Radio, and that's where the idea for iTunes Radio originated. So there you go. I also got a kick out of the extra features slide during the WWDC keynote, which showed things like notification sync, which also recently just came to Android, and night mode for maps, which the Google Maps app in iOS also has, and FaceTime audio. And the best part about that was right after they described in great detail the ability to make FaceTime audio calls over Wi-Fi, they flashed to a dude in the audience wearing a Skype t-shirt who looked particularly speechless at that point. I think it was they probably planned that really, really well. They had the camera on him the whole time waiting for his reaction. So that was pretty much golden reaction, priceless. So at the end of the day, iOS 7 features come from everywhere. Android features come from everywhere. Windows features come from everywhere. It's not even close to it being a blatant copy, except for maybe Safari, but honestly, they come from all over the place, and we should be glad because, like we said, there are plenty of awesome features that are too awesome not to be shared. Steve Jobs once very famously quoted Picasso for saying this, and I'll let you listen to it yourself.
I mean, Picasso had a saying, he said, good artists copy, great artists steal. And we have, always been shameless about stealing great ideas.
And I'm sure behind closed doors, pretty much every major tech company has had a CEO say something along the same lines. So, you know what? Enjoy it. Welcome to the party, iOS users. Welcome to the party, the notification party, whatever you want to call the new iOS 7 features party. Because, you know what? Without iOS in the first place, we wouldn't have had a ton of the features that we're seeing on other operating systems. So the sharing goes all around, and now you know where iOS 7's new features come from. Either way, thank you for watching this video. Feel free to share it with your friends. I know it's a long video, but if you made it this far, definitely leave a thumbs up below, and subscribe if you want to see more like this. Either way, like I said, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.